What would you do if you found a door in your own house that you were never supposed to open? A door your parents swore didn't matter, a door you grew up ignoring, until one day you couldn't anymore. Tonight's story comes straight from Reddit, and it will make you question how well you really know your own home. Stay with me until the end, because what was behind that door was more than just a family secret. It was something that should never have been found. I grew up in an old house in upstate New York, the kind of place that creaks in the night like it's trying to whisper to you. It wasn't a mansion, but it wasn't small either. 2 stories, peeling white paint, ivy crawling up the brick chimney. My family had lived there for generations, and the house carried that kind of heaviness you can feel in your chest, even if no one talks about it. As a child, I never thought much of the locked door in the hallway upstairs. It was just there. A narrow wooden door, painted the same faded beige as the walls. The doorknob was rusted, always cold to the touch, and when I asked my parents what was behind it, their answers were vague. Storage, my mom would say. Nothing important, my dad would add. But there was something in their tone, clipped, defensive, that made me feel like it was more than just a storage closet. I remember trying once as a kid to twist the knob, but it didn't budge. I asked why it was locked, and my dad shut me down fast. Don't touch that door again. For years, I let it fade into the background. Every house has its quirks. Maybe it really was just storage. But some nights, lying in bed, I could swear I heard something faint from the hallway. A shuffle, a soft dragging sound. Or maybe it was just my imagination, like any kid spooking themselves in the dark. I grew older, went to high school. Life moved on, but that door never stopped tugging at the back of my mind. It wasn't until I was in college that the door became more than a mystery. I came home one weekend to help my mom clean out the attic. She handed me an old metal box filled with random tools and house junk. At the bottom, tucked under a coil of yellowed extension cord, was a small brass key. It was old, tarnished, with teeth that looked jagged and unusual. My first thought wasn't the basement or the shed. No, it was the upstairs hallway. That locked door. When I held the key, it felt heavier than it should have been. I slipped it into my pocket, saying nothing. That night, after my parents went to bed, I found myself standing in front of that door again. For the first time in years, I studied it closely. The paint was chipped near the hinges, like it had been forced shut too many times. The wood smelled faintly of mildew, and as I pressed my ear against it, I could swear there was a faint draft on the other side. My hand shook as I slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. Click. The sound of the bolt turning was like thunder in the silence of the hallway. I froze, heart hammering. Something in me screamed, "Don't do it." But another part, the part that had wondered for years, couldn't stop. I turned the knob and pulled. The door groaned open, the air that escaped cold and damp, like it hadn't been disturbed in decades. The space beyond wasn't a storage closet. It wasn't even a proper room. It was a narrow staircase, sloping down steeply into the dark. The smell hit me first. Mold, rot, and something metallic, almost like rusted iron. I hesitated, staring down into that blackness, before grabbing a flashlight from my room. The beam cut through the dark, revealing stone walls and thick cobwebs. The stairs were uneven, carved from rough wood that creaked under my weight as I stepped down. The deeper I went, the colder it got. My breath came out in pale wisps, and my footsteps echoed unnaturally, like the space below was bigger than I could see. At the bottom, I found a small underground room. The walls were stone, damp and crumbling. The air felt heavy, suffocating, but it was what was in the middle of the room that made me stop breathing. A chair, a single wooden chair, bolted into the floor. Rusted chains dangled from its arms, as if whoever had once sat there had been restrained. Around it were dark stains on the ground, too old to identify but too obvious to ignore. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over something. I shined my flashlight down. Bones. Small animal bones scattered across the dirt floor. Some broken, some gnawed. Every instinct in me screamed to run. But before I could, the light from my flashlight caught something carved into the wall. Words, scratched deep into the stone, over and over again. "Let me out. The letters were uneven, frantic, as if written by someone in desperation. I turned to leave, but then I heard it. A sound I will never forget. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Coming from the far corner of the room. I froze. The beam of my flashlight trembled as I aimed it toward the corner. Nothing. Just shadows, thick and clinging. Hello. I whispered, though I don't know why. The breathing stopped. And then something moved. A scrape, like fingernails dragging across stone. My heart nearly exploded. I backed up the stairs, every step a thunderclap in the silence. I could feel it, whatever was in that room, watching me. When I finally burst out of the hallway and slammed the door shut, I locked it, chest heaving. The key felt burning hot in my hand. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The next morning, I confronted my parents. My dad's face went pale as soon as he saw the key in my hand. My mom wouldn't even look at me. "You opened it, didn't you?" my dad whispered. I demanded answers. What was that room? Why had it been locked all these years? He refused at first, but eventually, with a trembling voice, he told me the truth. The house had belonged to his great-grandfather. And that room, it was a place of punishment, a place where people had been kept. He never said prisoners, never said victims, but his silence said more than his words. I wanted to believe it was just some grim piece of family history, something I could close the door on and forget, but the memory of that breathing, of the scrape in the dark, wouldn't let me. Over the following weeks, I started noticing changes in the house. Cold spots in the hallway, doors creaking open on their own. At night, lying in bed, I would hear footsteps above me, but there was no third floor. One night, I woke to find the hallway door wide open, even though I had locked it. The air pouring out of it was ice cold, and from the darkness below came a whisper, "Let me out." I slammed it shut and shoved a chair against it. The next morning, I nailed the door shut. But some nights, I still hear the faint sound of chains rattling beneath the floorboards. That was the story of the hidden door, and the secret no family should ever keep. If you found a locked door in your house, would you open it? Or would you leave it alone forever? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because more true horror from Reddit is coming your way, and you don't want to miss it.